In this video, we're asked to write a method called equals that'll basically compare two individual int trees, and it will return true or false as to whether or not the trees are equal. And remember, when we traverse through trees, we want to start at the overall root. So the fields we have access to are the data field of the individual nodes, the left and the right fields of the to get through the left and right subtrees, and we have access to the overall root. So let's get started. Right off the bat, because we're returning true or false, we're going to have the type of Boolean. So our header is just going to be public Boolean equals. We're taking in an int tree called other, because we're going to compare our int tree to that one. And at this point, we want to return, and from what we've learned in the past, we need to call upon private helper methods for our public methods in our binary tree classes. So we're going to call it equals, and because we want to traverse down the trees, the only ways we really know how to do that at this point are to call upon the overall root of the tree, and we also need to call upon the other tree's overall root. Alright, so now we're at the private helper method. It's going to return a Boolean type, because if we return void here, then this just returns nothing, and that becomes incompatible with the Boolean type. So it's going to be Boolean. We're going to call it equals. Because we're passing in overall root as the parameter, it needs to be of the int tree node type. We're going to call it R1, and then the second one we're just going to call it R2. Alright, so base cases. One simple base case to test for equality is to check for nullness. I'm not sure if that's a word, so I'm going to put a question mark there. And the way we do that is we see if R1 is equal to null, or if R2 is equal to null. And the reason why we don't use the R1 equals null and R2 equals null is because at that point we're just assuming that we know that it's going to be returning true. So we don't know that. We want to have the special case. What if one overall root is null but the other one isn't? Then at that point we know it's not true. So we're going to actually do a little cool testing here. R2 equals null. And what we're going to do is we're just going to return R1 equals null and R2 equals null. Because at this point, this test here will say, okay, if this is true and this is true, then we have an overall true. If this is false and this is false, then we have an overall false. Or if this is true and this is false, then we return false, because they're not equivalent to one another at that point. So now we move on to our else case here. And at this point, we know we're not looking at the we're not looking at the leaf branches here, or the null values. So what we want to do is we want to keep traversing through the trees, and what we want to do is we want to see if the data for our first tree is equivalent to the data for the second tree. And then what do we want to do after that? We want to start traversing down the left side by calling R1.left and R2.left, and then we want to traverse down the right side. R1.right. Having a little trouble typing here. It's been quite a while since I've actually typed up any code, so please bear with me. And that should be it.